Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap, and now that the PS5 and the Series X have arrived, well, for the lucky ones among us at least, it got me thinking because both these consoles have AMD-based CPUs and GPUs, tech that's closely related to the AMD Ryzen and Radeon graphics that you can get on a gaming PC like this. So with AMD hardware across the board, I thought this would be a pretty interesting time to do the definitely not controversial topic of gaming PC versus console, or specifically Series X and PS5. Which is best? Which should you buy? Dun dun dun. Now before I go too far comparing PCs and consoles and kick that particular hornet's nest filled with snakes and electrified sharks, I should say that I own all the consoles and the gaming PC, which honestly I do feel incredibly lucky to have, and this is just going to be my experience of the pros and cons of each. And with that in mind, I've teamed up with AMD and PC Specialist to give away this amazing gaming PC worth over £2,000. So let's start with the gaming PC, and in this particular system, I've got the ridiculously powerful and water-cooled AMD Ryzen 9 5900X, as well as the top-end AMD Radeon 6800 XT graphics card. This is high-end stuff, ideal for high refresh 1440p and 4K gaming. And what makes this setup even more interesting is the 6800 XT has 16 gigs of GDDR6 VRAM, which gets an extra boost thanks to SAM, or Smart Access Memory. And this can actually help boost performance when you pair a Radeon 6000 series graphics card like this with a Ryzen 5000 CPU, by allowing the system to utilize VRAM more efficiently. So this is a seriously powerful combination, and is better value in terms of performance than last-gen PC tech. Now I know what you're thinking, hang on chap, this is absolutely overkill compared to these guys, and fair enough, this costs about 4 times as much as the consoles. Well, it's not meant to be like for like, because one of the key advantages, as you guys know, of a gaming PC is that it's basically infinitely customizable. Whether it's a pre-built system or one you part pick and build yourself, I can spend hours in PC Specialist System Configurator just playing with different setups. But crucially, you have the option to go for high-end specs and seriously outperform the consoles if you've got deep enough pockets. Now on the other hand, consoles are easier to pick up and play. They're small-ish, well at least compared to a mid-size ATX PC like this. They're well optimized, accessible, and you can be in a game in just a couple of button pushes. Plus, if you have a decent TV, especially if it's a good-sized 4K one with HDR, then the PS5 or the Series X is an extremely good value proposition. And I love just being able to flop onto the sofa and play something with the minimum of fuss. And local split screen and couch co-op games are great fun. And from a hardware perspective, these consoles are also way better than before. And while not exactly cheap, compared to an equivalent powered PC, these two are incredible value for money. So consoles win? That's the end of the video? Maybe. The thing is, PCs are more complex beasts. They're more expensive for similar performance, they're bulkier, and just not quite as approachable. But to my mind, that's kind of missing the point. PCs are a lot more flexible when it comes to tuning your experience to be what you want. Whether it's ultra-high refresh rates or the highest graphic settings at 4K, running other programs so you can live stream in parallel, mod games, and even maybe do a bit of work sometimes. It's a pretty classic argument, but I use this PC not just for games, but it's also a very powerful video and photo editing machine, and I could do some CAD 3D rendering if I knew how to do those things. You can also upgrade any part of your PC at any time, or customize the look, and if you prefer gaming on your TV, then a smaller mini RTX PC makes for a pretty convincing console-like experience. And that's the other thing, it's not just about purchase price, because yes, straight away this is going to cost you a lot more upfront than a console, but then you've got to consider the online subscriptions for multiplayer or game passes on these two. You could just play all your old games or log into Steam on this and it doesn't cost you anything extra. And also most of the time games on PC are cheaper, especially now premium console games have hit a wallet-smoking $70 or so. Ultimately though, it is the games that count, and even PC Master Race diehards will admit that they'd love to play Spider-Man, Last of Us or Ghost of Tsushima, which as I'm saying it I do realise are all PS5 exclusives. It's also really important where your friends play online, because except for a few games like Call of Duty Black Ops and Fortnite, which are cross-platform, if all your mates are playing on Xbox, then that's a good reason to get an Xbox. But let's dive a little bit deeper into the power of these machines, because the consoles especially have had a massive upgrade in terms of performance. And most games now will target 4K at 60 frames per second, even with relatively high graphics settings. So playing games on a new console finally feels like gaming on a PC. But 4K 60 is kind of like the holy grail for consoles because most modern TVs are 4K and support 60. Higher end ones have, HDMI 2.1 and 120Hz refresh, variable refresh rates, all those extra bells and whistles. Plus, you'll get a much better HDR experience as most TVs are significantly brighter than monitors, and generally console games are better optimized for HDR. But most new TVs are 4K 60, so immediately you can get the most out of these consoles. What's interesting though is that even on PC, we're now getting some pretty impressive upscaling technologies in the form of DLSS with NVIDIA graphics cards and the new super resolution with AMD's GPUs. Though the latter is brand new on the 6800 series and I haven't been able to properly test it out yet. But I'm hoping to see wider use of this tech as it means a boost in performance with very limited effect on image quality and potentially means we could even play in 8K with something like reasonable frame rates. Like the 6800 XT though here, both consoles do support ray tracing, which allows for more realistic lighting, shadows and reflections. But this is where that kind of customization and all those extra graphics options that you get with PC games comes in handy because depending on your spec and also what resolution you play at, you can enable ray tracing and then tinker the settings so you still get a playable 60 FPS. And unlike with a PC, older backwards compatible games like Red Dead Redemption 2 that ran at 30 FPS on last gen are still limited to 30 on the new machines, unless the developer updates the game with a patch. Whereas on PC, most games can run at whatever frame rate your machine and monitor can manage. And then you can still tweak the settings to hit the right balance between frame rate and graphics quality. Now in a first for games consoles, both the new Xboxes and PlayStations support HDMI 2.1, which means if you hook it up to a compatible TV, you can get up to 120 FPS in games, although again, the game also needs to support it. Problem is, this tends to be limited to multiplayer modes, or with reduced graphics as with Dirt 5. And as I say, you'll also need a TV that supports 120 with HDMI 2.1, and these tend to be the latest, very expensive models. However, with PCs, you can do whatever you want really, whether it's just a bog standard 1080p 60 setup, or you're going to go 120, 240, or even 360 Hz if you've got a compatible monitor and you can output those kind of frame rates. I recently did a blind test of each and you can tell a difference just... Okay, I think this is 360.
It is.
Is it?
It is 360.
In each case though, it's amazingly smooth and you get that sort of instant visual feedback to your inputs. Importantly though, you can get a 1080p 27-inch 144Hz monitor from as little as £250 to £300, whereas a TV with 120Hz will set you back anywhere from £1,200 to £3,000, depending on the model and the size. And even then, there's only a handful of games that even support 120. Not only that, but also most good PC gaming monitors also support a form of variable refresh rates, which the Xbox does also support and the PS5 is due to, and this can help reduce screen tearing and just make everything feel smoother. Again though, while most monitors have some form of this, whether it's FreeSync or G-Sync, only very high-end TVs have this function right now. And one of my personal favorite reasons to go for a PC is that it is compatible with an ultra-wide monitor. And as I've always said, once you go ultra-wide, you can't go back. It's just a really cool, immersive gaming experience. And while you can hook these consoles up to an ultra-wide, you either get pillar boxing out the side or just a stretched image. It just doesn't really work. Now if you're thinking, Tom, stop waffling on, this is getting boring, get to the exciting bit. Well, I'm here. Let's talk about storage. I know, exciting stuff, but while PCs have had SSDs or solid-state drives for years now, the consoles not only have just caught up, but are actually now right at the cutting edge, with both the Xbox and PS5 using forms of ultra-fast PCIe 4 storage. And load times coming from the older consoles are just so much faster across the board. Problem is, while the 1TB expansion card I have here from Seagate is a really good idea, it is quite expensive. It costs almost as much as the Xbox Series S by itself, and right now there aren't actually any compatible expandable storage drives for PS5. SSDs on PC, on the other hand, are much cheaper, and you also have the options of whether you want to go 512 gigs, 1 or 2 terabytes, etc. There's just a lot more options, and also generally it's quite a bit cheaper. Now let's talk design, and this is where things get a little bit tricky because design is so subjective. Personally, I think these both look great, and I actually really do like the PS5, although I know not everyone does. Undoubtedly, these are both much more compact than most PCs, though. Even the smallest kind of like NZXT H1 mini PCs are a little bit bigger. So what Sony and Microsoft have managed to cram into such a small form factor that's also cool and almost completely silent throughout, which is a big upgrade, especially over, say, the PS4 Pro, is very, very impressive. And that's the advantage of being able to just design one SKU, just one product, or I guess two, the Series S and the digital edition, compared to PCs, which just have a million off-the-shelf combinations. but being modular means that you can customize your rig any way you like, go with a theme or keep things simple and understated. And depending on the size of the case, you can fit it with all the storage, adding cards, lighting, or cooling rads and fans that you want. Not only that, but you can also overclock your PC to get a bit more performance for free. But really, when it all comes down to it, I'm sure you guys would agree, it is all about the games. Where can you play the games that you want, and also play them best? And both Xbox and PlayStation often get amazing exclusives. If you're after a console and a PC, then I think you can make arguments for either, but personally I would go with a PC and PS5 combo, as you get all of Sony's exclusives, and as I say, Xbox exclusives are also available on PC. But the PS5 has a bit of an ace card here because its new DualSense controller has next-gen haptic feedback and adaptive triggers, which can adjust how much resistance they need to be pushed down. So dunking an NBA or firing a gun in Call of Duty, it feels great, and I think it's a genuine advantage over both PC and Xbox. When it comes to playing older games, the Xbox does pretty well. It's got a ton of titles all the way back to the original Xbox, and it improves them with better frame rates, load times, and even smart HDR. The PS5 is a little bit more limited, offering almost all the PS4 library, also with performance boosts and faster load times, but only a limited range of older PS3 titles via PlayStation Now. Xbox also has Game Pass, where for a monthly fee you can download and play a whole range of games, which avoids the big outlay for each game. However, if you do stop your subscription, then you do lose access to those games, so it is another ongoing cost to factor in. PC, on the other hand, has, 40 plus years worth of games you can find and usually run with a bit of fiddling.
Hello?
Sites like GOG have also updated older games that should run well on Windows 10. Plus, you have the option for Xbox Game Pass as well, and you can even stream your games if your PC isn't up to much but you have a decent internet connection, using the likes of GeForce Now or Shadow. The only thing that is really a pain in the ass on PC though is all the different launchers that you need to install. You've got Steam and Uplay, Origin, Epic, Battle.net, Blizzard. I'm sure there's more. It can be tricky to get going sometimes. But I would also say don't worry if you're a little bit scared about building or buying maybe your first gaming PC. There's so many great retailers out there, and as I say, I've teamed up with PC Specialist here in the UK, and using their configurator tool, you can pick exactly what you want for your budget, and it makes sure the components you choose are compatible with the rest of the system. It basically takes all the guesswork out of a new build, saves time and frustration. But of course, if you prefer, you can also pick and choose the parts you want, assuming they're available, and build it yourself, and this will save you a bit of money. So which should you buy? Well, I'm going to give you one of those really annoying non-answers because it's completely up to you. It's what games you play, where your friends are playing, and also how much money you have. If you can afford to buy a pretty impressive high-end gaming PC, then this is probably going to give you a better gaming experience over a console, but you cannot deny the value for money, the accessibility, and of course also those exclusives that consoles are really worth buying. So hopefully by watching this and also listening to my voice start to get horsey because it's been quite a long video, it's given you some idea which is better, or maybe just reaffirmed your own purchase decision that you've already made. But enough of me waffling on because I know why you stayed this long, or maybe you just skipped ahead because you want to know how you can win this PC right here. Well, nice and simple. All you have to do is make sure you're subscribed to me on YouTube. Just click that little button below. You may already be. Hit the like button and also leave a comment saying what your favorite game is and maybe what game you'd be most excited to play on a new PC if you were to win. The only other requirement is if you have Twitter, head on over there and follow me at the Tech Chap, and also follow AMD UK and PC Specialist. You'll see my post which has this PC in it where I mention these things, and just follow those accounts, and that's pretty much it. I really do hope you guys found this helpful. If you do want to see more from me, as I say, hit that subscribe button below, and I'll catch you next time right here on the Tech Chap.
I hope there was nobody on that bus.
Nobody we know, at least.